Today's lesson is lesson 4 on adding and subtracting fractions. We are adding fractions, and our answer is going to be between 1 whole and 2 wholes. So I'm going to do word problem number 3 from their homework. Mr. S used 5/8 of a tank of gas on a trip to visit his relatives, and another 1/2 of a tank commuting to work the next week. He then took another weekend trip and used 1/4 of a tank of gas. How many tanks of gas did Mr. S use altogether? So you are going to end up adding 5/8 plus 1/2 plus 1/4. Now, this is adding 3 fractions together, which I don't recommend. But what I do recommend is adding 2 of them together, getting an answer, and then adding that to the third fraction. Okay? Or, if you did want to add all 3 fractions together, you'd have to get a common denominator for all 3. The class has agreed to take all 3 fractions and turn them into 8ths. Because if you counted by 2s, and you counted by 4s, and you counted by 8s, you'd get 8. They'd meet at 8. Now, if you notice, this one's already in 8ths. So you don't have to do anything to it. Leave it. These other ones, you got to make equivalent fractions equal to 8ths. So if I do the top rule, or top-bottom rule, and I multiply here, I'm going to do times 4, top and bottom. So this one is now 4/8. If I do the top-bottom rule here, 4 times 2 is 8, so I have to do the same thing to the top. 1 times 2 is 2. So now I have 3 fractions with all the same denominator. So let's add them. 5/8 plus 4/8 plus 2/8, and my answer is 11/8. In class, we talked about you can't leave your answer as an improper fraction. You must simplify it. And if we think of this as a tree, and we tip the tree over, it becomes a division problem of 8 into 11, which goes once, with a remainder of 3. So in the mixed number, my answer is my whole number, my remainder is my top number of my fraction, and my denominator stays the same. So my answer is 1 3/8 gallons of gas for word problem number 3. So if I'm going to represent this problem with a picture, since there are 3 fractions, I'm going to draw 3 rectangles. One of them I'm going to have be in half to represent 1/2. One of them I'm going to be in fourths to represent 1/4. And the other one I got to do in eighths, which is a little harder. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 5 of these need to be shaded. That's 5/8. Okay? I got my common denominator was 8. So this one right here I leave alone. It's in eighths already. To make halves into eighths,